Live.
Welcome back to our channel. And it is Wednesday. We might actually get 3 videos this week. Knock on wood.
Hope so.
I am Old New Dude. He is
Richard York, Asher's True-Born Son.
And Arya 5, A Game of Thrones. Very sad chapter. But it doesn't get sad until the very end of it. The beginning of the chapter, I mean, the resilience of Arya is just freaking amazing. But
exactly.
As with all these, we start with the brains of the operation. That is Richard. He will say what he saw in the chapter. And on this one, I did not read what you had written down because I didn't want to. I didn't want to mess up what I saw in the chapter.
Well, I already hinted at the Triplet Targaryen reference to you, so it won't be too much of a surprise.
Yeah, there you go. But we'll go with what he saw in the chapter, and then I'll jump in with my stupid stuff every now and then. So take it away, Richard.
Thank you, sir. So in this chapter, both Arya and Ned take a little bit off the top.
I can laugh at that joke now, but when this first happened, oh my God. I knew it was coming, and just to see it happen on the screen, and we were just talking about how the show got it better than the books.
You can't. I just mentioned that there's going to be. Does that really even count?
Anyway, I look forward to these, man. I'll go ahead and say that.
Maybe Liz is the official counter, so I guess I can't complain too much. Anyway,
there you go. We appreciate it, Liz. Right. Take it away.
The scent of hot bread drifting from the shops along the street of flour was sweeter than any perfume Arya had ever smelled. She took a deep breath and stepped closer to the pigeon. It was a plump one, speckled brown, busily pecking at a crust that had fallen between 2 cobblestones. But when Arya's shadow touched it, it took to the air. Arya's shadow can take wing. This is some serious skin changer foreshadowing.
You're not lying.
The talk in Flea Bottom was that the Goldcloaks had thrown in with the Lannisters, their commander raised to a lord, with lands on the Trident and a seat on the King's Council. She'd also heard other things, scary things that made no sense to her. Some said her father had murdered King Robert and been slain in turn by Lord Renly. Others insisted that Renly had killed the king in a drunken quarrel between brothers. Why else should he have fled the night like a common thief? One story said the king had been killed by a boar while hunting. Another that he died eating a boar, stuffing himself so full that he'd ruptured at the table. No, the king had died at table, others said, but only because Varys the spider poisoned him. No, it had been the queen who poisoned him. No, he had died of a pox. No, he choked on a fish bone. One thing all the stories agreed on, King Robert was dead. The bells in the 7 towers of the great Sept of Baelor had tolled for a day and a night, the thunder of their grief rolling across the city in a bronze tide. They only rang the bells like that for the death of a king, a tanner's boy told Arya. We've said it before, but the way George explores the spread of information and misinformation always fascinates me.
Unless you hear it from the horse's mouth, a direct quote from somebody that physically saw it.
Even then, people are often lying and you don't realize it.
Right.
Like Illyrio claiming that he expected Dany to die. I'm like, did he though? Anyway.
Everything in these books that doesn't happen in the chapter, you hear about it secondhand. Well, it's like with
even things said by our POV can be lies, right?
Yeah, George has said that plenty of times. I mean, there could be the unreliable narrator. Just because they see it a certain way doesn't mean it actually happened that way.
Yeah, there's that too, right? Like we've seen some things happen that didn't really happen. That's true.
Right.
She wondered how big Rickon had grown and whether Bran was sad. She would have given anything if Jon had been here to call her little sister and muss her hair. Not that it needed mussing. She'd seen her reflection in puddles, and she didn't think her hair got any more mussed than hers. I skipped over some of the depressing parts leading up to this because I just like this lighthearted thought was just so cheerful that I wanted to include it.
Now I'll go ahead and tell you, I think, and I might be biased, I think George R. R. Martin writes the Arya chapters better than he does any of the other chapters. I'm not saying they're my favorite.
There's definitely a certain style to her thoughts and so forth, and the whole oh, that's stupid and stuff. It's just really fun and
her chapters are I mean, some of my favorite, even when they have bad crap happen in it. They're
Yeah.
just some of the easiest to read. And then you get a Bran or a Daenerys chapter where there's just so many words that it just kind of jumbles together and gets kind of like monotonous a little bit. But yeah, I love Arya.
Well, I think it's pretty painful when she's with the when she's captured by Gregor's men. But
Yeah.
Yep. So Lizzie says that Arya's his wife's favorite character. She probably stands over him whilst he writes them.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. Lizzie, I don't know if you've probably seen me tweet it out a few times, but there's specific links to her both to the Macy's interview in Cosmo where she says that, and I've got a link to a timestamp where he says that in one of his panels or something, right? So, that I've tweeted out a few times.
And also, didn't somebody else quote his wife from a party? Arya.
Well, I mean, Macy tells us what I don't know about that. There might be. That wouldn't be surprised me if there's more. I still think it's funny that like 4 of the last 5 Maester monthlies are them like laughing at how silly people are for believing that George ever said this. Clearly, he never said this. I'm like, really? Because I got a link of him saying it on YouTube, and I've got a Cosmo interview that says he said it. But okay,
there you go.
Anyway, she had tried talking to the children she saw on the street, hoping to make a friend who would give her a place to sleep, but she must have talked wrong or something. The little ones only looked at her with quick, wary eyes and ran away if she came too close. The big brothers and sisters asked questions Arya couldn't answer, called her names, and tried to steal from her. Only yesterday, a scrawny, barefoot girl twice her age had knocked her down and tried to pull the boots off her feet, but Arya gave her a crack on her ear with her stick sword that sent her off sobbing and bleeding. So this could be a reference to her highborn northern accent. Also, if majority is 16, how is there a girl twice her age? I don't get that at all.
I got something else at the beginning of it. She had tried to talk to the children she saw running the street, hoping to make a friend who would give her a place to sleep, but she must have said something wrong. The little ones only looked at her. I mean, are those Varys' little birds? That looked at her and ran away. Now, if they are Varys,
he could be lying about not knowing where she is. That's definitely possible. It always seemed a little weird that he would have ever lost sight of her.
Right. I mean, yeah, I'm reading a little bit more into it than what might be there. But with George, you kind of got to look past the words sometimes. And as soon as I read it,
you called him Varys. We don't do that here.
Oh, Dorcas. I think Dorcas knew where Arya was at all times.
I think it's definitely possible, right? There's somewhere amongst Preston's videos, he goes into a side where he lists like all of the things that Varys says that we know specifically are deliberate, clear, bald-faced lies, because there's people who believe that Varys doesn't lie, and he's like, no. So he's got a collection, and it's at least 1 or 2 of those are like so incredibly indisputable that it's like, yeah, Varys definitely lies.
That's twice you said Varys.
Oh, sorry, Dorcas. My bad.
There you go. We're even, all right.
Fair enough. A Gaul wheeled overhead as she made her way down the hill toward Flea Bottom. Arya glanced at it thoughtfully, but it was well beyond the reach of her stick. It made her think of the sea. Maybe that was the way out. Old Nan used to tell stories of boys who stowed away on trading galleys and sailed off into all kinds of adventures. Maybe Arya could do that too. She decided to visit the riverfront. It was on the way to the Mudgate anyway, and she hadn't checked that one today. When she saw the guardsmen on the 3rd pier in gray woolen cloaks trimmed with white satin, her heart almost stopped in her chest. The sight of Winterfell's colors brought tears to her eyes. Behind them, a sleek 3-banked trading galley rocked at her moorings. Arya could not read the name painted on the hull. The words were strange, Mirish, Bravosi, perhaps even High Valyrian. She grabbed a passing longshoreman by the sleeve. Please, she said, what ship is this? She's the Wind Witch out of Myr, the man said. She's still here, Arya blurted. The longshoreman gave her a queer look, shrugged, and walked away. Arya ran toward the pier. The Wind Witch was the ship father had hired to take her home. Still waiting. She'd imagined it had sailed ages ago. 2 of the guardsmen were dicing together while the 3rd walked rounds, his hands on the pommel of his sword. Ashamed to let them see her crying like a baby, she stopped to rub at her eyes. Her eyes. Why did... Look with your eyes, she heard Syria whisper. So here we go. Intervention.
Oh yeah. That right there is the strongest intervention in the chapter, but there are others.
Yeah, and I'm not convinced that it's actually Syria. She wasn't sure of what we think was quite likely a future brand. Looking back, the previous time that she kind of thought it might be Syria's voice, and so
Right.
I kind of suspect this is the same voice that she thought. Well, maybe that's Syria. So that's what I think is supposed to be going on there.
Yeah, I agree.
Arya looked. She knew all of her father's men. The three in the gray cloaks were strangers. You, the one walking around, called out, "What do you want here, boy?" The other two looked up from their dice. It was all Arya could do, not to bolt and run, but she knew that if she did, they would be after her at once. She made herself walk closer. They were looking for a girl, but he thought she was a boy. She'd be a boy then. Want to buy a pigeon? She showed him the dead bird. Get out of here, the guardsman said. Arya did as he told her. She did not have to pretend to be frightened. Behind her, the men went back to their dice. She could not have said how she got back to Fleet Bottom, but she was breathing hard by the time she reached the narrow, crooked, unpaved streets between the hills. So this seems to be some of that lost time that Preston looks for.
Yep.
Although personally, I find it's easy in life to put your brain on autopilot and basically lose time, effectively fast forwarding life, like Adam Sandler in the movie Click.
Right, but this is one of those that she doesn't know how she got there. She might have been on autopilot, but she's in the perfect place to find out what the damn bells mean. So she knows. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, she's right there at the right spot for the lady sticking her head out the window. The old.
Yeah, maybe she wasn't going to go right back to Flea Bottom, and she needed to have these conversations that she's about to have. Yeah.
Right. She needed to go to. Well, I mean, she had the pigeon. She needed to go to the Isle of Flower or whatever it is, Street of Flower, to trade the pigeon for Super Brown. I don't know what it is.
Right. So yeah. Oh yeah, and you're right. She loses the pigeon during this. Yeah. So that okay.
Yeah.
The gold cloaks is carrying him to the sept. Who? She yelled, running hard. The hand. They'll be taking his head off, Boo says. I don't know who Boo is, but he seems better informed than Cersei or Dorcas.
Yeah, he is.
I got it right that time. The king's hand, Lord Stark. They're carrying him up to Baelor's sept. I heard he was dead. Soon enough. Here, I got me a silver stag, says they lop his head off. Past time, the traitor, the man spat. Arya struggled to find a voice. He never, she started, but she was only a child, and they talked right over her. Fool, they ain't neither going to lop him. Since when did they nick traitors on the steps of the great sept? Dude, say that 3 times fast.
I'm telling you.
Well, they don't mean to anoint him no knight. I heard it was Stark killed old King Robert, slit his throat in the woods, and when they found him, he stood there, cool as you please, and said it was some old boar did for his grace. That's not true. It was his own brother did him, that Renly, him with his gold antlers. So again, some of the small folks seem better informed than Cersei and Dorcas, but we also see misinformation spreading.
Right.
She looked up at Baelor the Blessed, the Septon King. Sliding her stick sword through her belt, Arya began to climb. Her broken thumbnail left smears of blood on the painted marble, but she made it up and wedged herself in between the king's feet. That was when she saw her father. So Arya climbs Baelor. In the show, this is somewhat key, right?
Yeah.
I kind of like that addition in the show. So I believe Ned shouts Baelor to Yoren in the show, which gets Yoren to look over and see Arya.
But in the book, okay, before we even get to this point, it is you have Arya now, but she is taken to the sept of Baelor by human current carrying her along, basically on autopilot, and it's the people that are bringing her to the right spot. It's not necessarily her. So I see intervention everywhere, but I just see another spot where helping hands got her where she needed to be.
Reasonable interpretation. The High Septon himself stood behind him, a squat man, gray with age and ponderously fat, wearing long white robes and an immense crown of spun gold and crystal that wreathed his head like rainbows whenever he moved. So the crystals and rainbows are often used for symbolism for the seven.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the intent of him dressing such, but just thought it was interesting. Joffrey was prominent among them, his raiment all crimson, silk, and satin, patterned with prancing stags and roaring lions, a gold crown on his head. His queen mother stood beside him in a black mourning gown slashed with crimson, a veil of black diamonds in her hair. So black and crimson is in red. Interesting symbolism around the light of the West. For more on Targaryen symbolism, see Triplet Targaryens, episode 5.
There you go. Well, Liz is going to count that as 2.
I still say it's only 1, but okay.
Okay.
And there in their midst was Sansa, dressed in sky blue silk, with her long auburn hair washed and curled and silver bracelets on her wrists. Arya scowled, wondering what her sister was doing here, why she looked so happy. Not the only time she's worn a Targaryen-type dress. No, there's definitely more Targaryen symbolism around Cersei.
Without a doubt.
Sansa and Ned both believed they made a deal to save Ned's life, which is why she's looking happy. She's pleased with herself having made a deal to save Ned.
See, now, I'm going to get in a little tinfoil here. We never hear, I know we're getting ready to hear him talk, but we never hear Eddard make the deal. You know what I mean? He never...
Yeah, it's left with we're left with the belief that he still has a choice to make, right? But clearly, we talked about with the Green Bard, the right choice is to choose family over duty and duty over honor, and that the Tully words are supposed to be in order,
right?
And doing whatever is right doesn't mean doing what's honorable; it means doing what's right, and what's right is to put your family first.
Right. Well, you even have Jon Snow say, "Well, he will do what's right." If he...
Right. That's my point. Is John thinks he's saying he's going to do what's honorable, but what's right is to put family first, and he is doing what's right.
Yeah, but there's still that tenfold that because I mean he doesn't mention the old gods none at all in his speech.
No. Well, I think that's deliberate, right? He's swearing by gods that he doesn't believe in.
Yeah. I like the idea that maybe Jaqen H'ghar had kind of skin changed him, is up there talking for him because Ned didn't make the deal.
I don't think so. I don't think anybody would do that. No, I don't think anybody would choose to have their own head chopped off in exchange for Ned or to try and take his place.
Well, no, I mean Jaqen H'ghar is thinking it's the same thing. He's getting the deal.
I get it. Yeah, Ned doesn't believe he's going to die, and so Jaqen shouldn't believe he's going to die either. Yeah, I get that.
I mean, it's fun to think about. I like going down that rabbit hole. I know it's way out there.
That's one of the things about Dorcas is like, aren't you taking a little bit of a risk here, putting yourself with Cersei, given how you had your agent convince Cersei to have the previous occupant of this job tortured to death, you know?
Well, I mean, him and Cersei at this point, and we don't know how Dorcas explained it, but it is best for everybody involved if Ned takes the black. I mean, without a doubt.
Right. It's clear whereas we're about to see, it's clear that people did not want this to go this way, other than Littlefinger and Ilyn and the people specifically involved in the execution. But Joffrey, obviously, but Janice Slint, that's the other one.
Yeah, Janice Slint. Yeah.
So those four definitely knew what was happening. But anyway.
Yeah.
I am Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell and Hand of the King, he said. Well, he said more loudly. Okay, this is the loud version. His voice carrying across the plaza. And I come before you to confess my treason in the sight of gods and men. No, Arya whimpered. Below her, the crowd began to scream and shout. Taunts and obscenities filled the air. Sansa had hidden her face in her hands. Her father raised his voice still higher, straining to be heard. I betrayed the faith of my king and the trust of my friend Robert, he shouted. I swore to defend and protect his children. Yet before his blood was cold, I plotted to depose and murder his son and seize the throne for myself. Let the High Septon and Baelor the Beloved and the Seven bear witness to the truth of what I say. Joffrey Baratheon is the one true heir to the Iron Throne, and by the grace of all the gods, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and protector of the realm. So Melisandre might compare a vow to a tree to a vow to your shoes, but for a northerner, a vow to the seven is a better example of a worthless vow.
Yeah, also, you remember when Ned said that he dishonored Cat in the sight of gods and men?
Yep.
We got the same thing in the sight of gods and men, meaning that that was his wedding in front of the seven with Cat, not one in front of the tree. So that goes kind of against what I was thinking.
Oh yeah, no, it's tying them together. You're right. It's tying together the concept of that they're both in the eyes of the seven, right?
Right.
Public religious vows in the eyes of the seven, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a knock against my Jaqen H'ghar controlling them kind of thing.
was nice to acknowledge when things might be better interpreted elsewise. Yeah. Nice.
I got no ego when it comes to this stuff.
I appreciate you willing to do that. It adds to some validity to those things that you believe in that don't have such contradictions, right? It shows your willingness to be flexible and so forth.
Oh yeah.
My mother bids me let Lord Eddard take the black, and Lady Sansa begged for mercy for her father. He looked straight at Sansa then and smiled. For a moment, Arya thought that the gods had heard her prayer, till Joffrey turned back to the crowd and said, "But they have the soft hearts of women. So long as I am your king, treason shall never go unpunished. Sir Ilyn, bring me his head." So Peter did a great job of coaching this.
Oh yeah. Well, I think he's hidden fingers for Joffrey too.
All right, we're gonna do a big long one here to the end. So
yeah,
this is so much stuff at the front of this and all throughout here. So
yeah,
you can still hear Sansa screaming. Sir Ilyn drew a two-handed greatsword from the scabbard on his back. As he lifted the blade above his head, sunlight seemed to ripple and dance down the dark metal, glinting off an edge sharper than any razor. Ice, she thought. He has ice. Her tears streamed down her face, blinding her. And then a hand shot out of the press and closed round her arm like a wolf trap, so hard that needle went flying from her hand. Arya was wrenched off her feet. She would have fallen if he hadn't held her up as easy as if she were a doll. A face pressed close to hers, long black hair and tangled beard and rotten teeth. "Don't look," a thick voice snarled at her. I, Arya sobbed. The old man shook her so hard her teeth rattled. "Shut your mouth and close your eyes, boy." Dimly, as if from far away, she heard a noise, a soft sighing sound as if a million people had let out their breath at once. The old man's fingers dug into her arm, stiff as iron. "Look at me. Yes, that's the way of it. At me." Sour wine perfumed his breath. "Remember, boy?" It was the smell that did it. Arya saw the matted, greasy hair, the patched, dusty black cloak that covered his twisted shoulders, the hard black eyes squinting at her, and she remembered the black brother who had come and visit her father. "Know me now, do you? There's a bright boy," he spat. "They're done here. You'll be coming with me, and you'll be keeping your mouth shut." She started to reply. He shook her again, even harder. "Shut, I said." The plaza was beginning to empty. The press dissolved around them as people drifted back to their lives, but Arya's life was gone. Numb, she trailed along beside Yoren. Yes, his name is Yoren. She did not recall him finding Needle until he handed the sword back to her. "Hope you can use that, boy." "I'm not," she started. He shoved her into a doorway, thrust dirty fingers through her hair, and gave it a twist, yanking her head back. "Not a smart boy. That what you mean to say?" He had a knife in his other hand. As the blade flashed toward her face, Arya threw herself backward, kicking wildly, wrenching her head from side to side. But he had her by the hair, so strong she could feel her scalp tearing, and on her lips the salt taste of tears. So it's Yoren to the rescue.
That is the last intervention that I say. What does he say?
Even knowing what was about to happen when I watched the show, I was still like, maybe someone will save him.
Until you get the swing of the sword, you're still on the edge of your seat, hoping something comes out.
Yeah, even on reread sometimes.
Yeah. There's a couple of chapters that on reread you're just wishing for something else to happen.
Yeah,
but you got, I mean, granted, she was at the feet of Baelor the Blessed statue, but Euron. Okay, follow me on this, all right?
Uh-huh.
The Night's Watch take no parts in anything in the South, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got Euron running like a bat out of hell to warn Eddard Stark about what happened at the end of the crossroads.
Yep.
Which is him taking a side. And then now here again, you got the same man basically taking a side again, the same side.
Yep.
Arya.
Well, he tells Ned he considers the Starks to be his brothers, right?
Right. But still, you got
my brothers. So I consider you guys to be my brothers.
See, that's what I think the Hidden Fingers are. Because granted, this what their decree is and what they're supposed to be is one thing, but what the man feels in his heart made him do something different, and that's where the Hidden Fingers are able to turn things a little bit. Because if he hadn't been there to see Arya at that one particular time that she's talking to Ned and he comes in, he would not be able to recognize her here.
Right.
So there's two times that he went with his heart, not his true duty to the Night's Watch.
Right.
So I just think that's really big Hidden Fingers.
Right. Certainly it had to go this way for things to play out right.
Right. Not to mention, you got the crowd at the sept. I mean, there are so many people there. I mean, what are the chances that Euron would find her? So maybe there's some nudging in certain directions on that one too. That one's a little thin though.
Yeah, makes sense. Up next, we've got Bran 7. You know what it is, boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
That chapter, like I was telling you before we started, it shows how resourceful Arya is, and like I told you before, Arya is so suited for the path that is in front of her, and Sansa is so suited for the path that is in front of her.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no way if you swap the people, there's no way they would survive that path. So I think that's more Hidden Fingers cultivating.
You're saying all along that they've been properly focused and trained on the right things to get them through.
Little tiny nudges. I mean, but damn, that's a chapter. I swear.
Yeah.
Poor dead Ned.
Yeah. Anything else?
Oh man, I got nothing else on this chapter. Once you get to the set the Baelor, it just my brain kind of shuts off a little bit.
I guess I'd say that if anybody's like tuned in recently, then it's probably been a while since we gave our very brief synopsis of why we always call Varys Dorcas, which is that you had the correct observation that Dorcas has been hanging out in the Red Keep all this time, and then shows up at the very end of the 5th book. And so theoretically, there should be some sign as to who he's been posing as. This is just a chapter we have to get past. This chapter is one we just have to get past. Yeah, kind of.
It's the first chapter like that in the book series too.
So Keith had pointed out that Varys Dorcas, as we call him, has been in the Red Keep the entire time, and there should be clues as to who he's posing as. And at first, I kind of dismissed it as like, it's probably just some random guard or something. But then we kind of went back and looked, and I was like, actually,
you're the one that found Dorcas.
Yeah, I mean, I've only looked because you told me that it's got to be the case, right? There's got to be somebody's got to be him, and is and then and it seems extremely likely that the individual is Dorcas.
Well, I mean, we're told up to that point. I mean, how good he is at how good he is at disguising himself.
Yeah.
And then for him to drop out of the books completely,
right? No,
I mean, that's a major character in the books to not see for the rest of the
books. He told me, and I started looking. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Dorcas.
I agree. The description alone, I mean, it does it.
2 for Triple Targaryens and 3 for Varys Dorcas.
Yeah.
I just felt like we hadn't talked through that in a while, and it was probably worth mentioning.
Yeah. And also, we might want to give a heads up on what we consider Hidden Fingers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So Preston Jacobs has a great series on time traveling Bran, and it kind of builds on the Order of the Green Hands position that the Three-Eyed Crow isn't Bloodraven. We're specifically told, and we see in Bran's dreams that the crow, that the tree that talks to him and is calling him north appears alongside of the crow. So, and it sure seems like that tree is Bloodraven, right? And the crow is somebody else, potentially somebody associated and next to that tree. And so it sure feels like that's not Bloodraven, right? Once you realize that the tree is always in the crow dreams, and we even see that the tree and the crow are 2 different things in the dreams. And then
you got the crow trying to disrupt.
It's also very clear when people who dismiss this theory will often say, well, you don't know what you are in somebody else's dream. And that's actually very much not true. I can't so much shit for saying Bloodraven is not the crow. It's nice hearing an affirmative. Yeah. And so it's very clear that the crow knows it's a crow in the dream, right? Because they specifically talk about the fact that the crow is a crow. Have you always been have you always been a crow? Have you always been a boy? Or have you always been falling? I can't remember. Or have you always been falling? I can't remember. But
I
anyway,
mean, the
they
damn
really
thing's
talk about it.
flying the first time we meet it.
Yeah,
I mean, a tree's not going to be flying.
It's flying, talking about how it has wings, asking for corn. Bran specifically asked it about being a crow. So dismissing it by saying that he doesn't know he's a crow in the dream is really weird. We also know that Bran, when he visits Jon, knows what he looks like to Jon and knows that he has this third eye and is reading his thoughts, right? So that also tells us, no, that's not how this works, right? The crow also says winter is coming, and the name Bran means crow. So there's some additional reasons to believe that this could be Bran Stark. But and so our view of the time traveling is that it's probably kind of like Quantum Leap. In George's stories, including like Hidden Variations, it seems to be somewhat like Quantum Leap. The concept is that the changes, where you can make changes, is in free will. That people could have made a decision one way or the other, and that you'd basically only be able to project your consciousness back into that person to make them make different decisions. And you probably would be limited to your own lifespan due to the paradoxes of potentially unmaking yourself if you went back before you were conceived. Then any changes are likely to cause you to not exist. I'm not convinced that Bran is subject to those kind of constraints, because I think he may sort of be symbolically. He seems to be I am who I am, God the Father creating himself potentially. So therefore, perhaps his very existence is supposed to be a paradox where he creates himself. Symbolically, that might be the case. So that's not necessarily true, but it seems likely, and certainly seems to be in George's writings in science fiction and time travel. Seems to be the case that he's sort of a quantum leap view of how time travel works, right? And so. So when we talk about hidden fingers and things, we're talking about the potential for somebody to be going back in time and manipulating things and seeing how it plays out and being able to do things and undo things. Casey's pointed out that it sure seems like there's actually two opposing forces. One place where that became really clear is that the first time that Arya sees the dragons, she believes that there's a presence watching her that does not love her, and it's pretty much the opposite the second time that she's with the dragons. And Euron, who once tried to be the crow and is now going to be the great other, potentially, there's certainly hints that he's somewhat like Bran, and so maybe he is or has been taken over by the great other. That's whether and there's theories that maybe the great other is Azor Ahai. Maybe Euron's either has been or will be taken over by the great other or Azor Ahai, if they are the same person or not. But anyway, it sure seems like there's this is sort of a game for two players, as Barris claims it's not, or Dorcas claims it's not.
Anyway,
the
simple explanation would be: remember when Tyrion goes to the top of the wall the one last time? All right, you got no preference on left or right.
Right, left for no good reason.
For no good reason, something made him take a right, and who does he run into? Jon and Ghost.
Right.
Those little decisions is where the story can be the slowly curved to the path that it needs to be. The best way to do it or to look at it is to go to the very last book at the end of everybody's chapter, find out where they are, and just like a puzzle, the little maze,
to get them there.
You start at the end and work your way backwards, and you could solve a maze a whole lot easier.
Right. What were the key moments that had to take place? So,
right.
So Lizzie says, so I've been rereading Dance, and in Tyrion's chapter, the Red Man told him the great other is a man with one eye and lots of arms sailing on a sea of blood. Okay. So, interesting.
Yeah.
In Dampier's Simple chapter, that's exactly how he sees Euron after he's fed the drink. Yeah. It's definitely
a Cthulhu type creature. Right. Well, I mean, the blood magic he's getting ready to perform in the battle of blood, sea blood, whatever they calling it, would supposedly or possibly bringing krakens.
Right. Right.
So chances are he's skin changed a kraken.
Right. Preston's
I mean,
mentioned that this concept of things hidden in the halls of ships turning the battle has been kind of repeated over and over again too, right?
yeah.
So that in this case it's probably blood to summon the Krakens. And Victorian has men hiding in boats that are supposed to look like they're just fishermen and stuff, right? No threat at all to anybody, but they're actually filled with warriors, Ironborn.
Right. But also you have priests, you have warlocks, you have all these sacrifices beside the blood. Sacrifices to who, and what is he going to get for that sacrifice?
Sure.
And then he's already talking about making a child worthy of the him. I think is what he says. A child worthy of him, because the one he's having with that lady or that girl, that's not it. That's not worthy of him. So we don't know if he's creating a body for the Cthulhu type character to possess, or if it's going to be Euron. I mean, as much as I hate Euron, that one kind of got me on the edge of the seats. What the hell's going to happen there?
Yeah, and I'm also wondering if is it Chiswick the Faithful is the leader of the biggest remaining brave companion sect, Bloody Mummers. So he's heading into Old Town.
Ooh.
So maybe he'll arrive in Old Town at just the wrong moment and distract Thalia Flowers. Yeah. Poor stupid Thalia. Maybe he'll arrive at Old Town just at the same time as, or just before Euron, and somehow sort of distract a significant portion of the security there.
Yeah,
that's just a thought I had. Urswick the Faithful, yeah.
My knowledge of Old Town is.
Yeah, he's heading for Old Town. We're told.
Yeah.
So
something's gonna happen. I'm not looking forward to that the most in the next book, but I kind of am. I mean, there's so much that could go freaking bad in that situation, that close to Old Town.
And for all we know, the Hightowers may actually have something up their sleeve with magic or something too, and that could be interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, granted, John being resurrected, Arya's path, Sansa, all that stuff is very important to find out in Winds. But none of them have
history
that much blood magic happening in one spot. The thing with Euron, it's granted. I don't know if we'll see it firsthand. If we get a point of view on it, hopefully we do. But there's none of the POV characters that we have that should see that battle of blood on the waters, right?
Well, Sam is there.
Well, he's in Old Town, so I don't know if he's going to see what actually happens.
Yeah, well, and Aaron is definitely he's literally strapped to the front of the ship.
Yeah, I didn't think about that one. You might get his point of view up until the point he gets sacrificed. What did Lizzie say?
I just want to get a look at the Hightowers.
Yeah.
Are you sure it's Urswick and not Cheswick? Why did I think it was Cheswick? All right.
As soon as you said Cheswick, that's what I was thinking too. But
I don't know.
Well, my memory is not the best in the world.
Maybe it is Urswick. It might be Urswick. I don't know. I'll look it up.
How many more chapters we got in this book?
Let's see here.
Got about 60 pages in my book.
All right. We are on. So Brand's going to be. This is Brand 66, right? Brand 66. Yeah, and there are 72 total.
Okay. Well, he's getting close to the end.
Oh, we've got 7 chapters left. Please, 66.
He was crossed, or he's listed here and all.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's right.
I think you're the guy that she worked for. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Chiswick. Okay, or however you spell it. Okay.
Thank you, Lizzie. Somebody got to keep it straight.
I believe you.
All right, Friday's going to be Bran. We're getting closer to Christmas too.
Yep. We've got 7 chapters left.
7 chapters. Oh, it'd be nice to get those 7 done before the new year.
Holy 7. Well,
there you go.
We might do that. Might be possible.
Am I mixing people up? No, you're dead right.
I don't know. Well, I guess we could figure it out here real quick. What is this? Chiswick is one of. Captures Arya Stark. Okay. Yay, Christmas Bran. He will bring the tree. Urswick. You're right. There is an Urswick. Urswick the Faithful. Yep. It's UR. Okay, it's URSWYCK.
Man, he comes up with some names.
So Urswick the Faithful. Okay, Urswick. All right. So you didn't spell it right, but you got the gist.
You definitely got it more right than we did.
Yeah, Urswick. Okay. Yeah, Chiswick is the guy that she works for. That she. Okay.
All right. Well, Friday's Bran, and this was a really good chapter, really good episode today. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lizzie.
The one that tells that's laughing at the concept that they of the payment for the to the father of the woman and so forth that she kills. Anyway. Thank you, guys. Well, thank you, Lizzie. Great having you.
We appreciate it. Having you on here makes it a whole lot more fun for us, so we really appreciate it.
Plus, she keeps us honest and corrects the facts and so forth.
Well, and then we got her, Lady Thistle. We got the Valonqar that watches on the rewatch. That he's watched since the beginning. Yeah. We got 3 or 4 people that we really appreciate.
Absolutely.
My sister's out there too somewhere. She watches these things. My son saves up like 3 or 4 of them and then watches them at his lunch hour at work once a week, something like that.
Great.
But Friday's Bran. Thank you again, Lizzie, for today. We will see you Friday. Lady Thistle, if you're out there, we'll see you Friday also. And we appreciate it. I have been Old New Dude. He has been
Richard York, Asher's True-Born Son.
We'll see y'all Friday. Be safe. Take care.
Have a good one.
You too.